Fair warning, this video covers topics related to an ongoing rumor, though it's one you've probably heard about by now if you follow Nintendo news at all. Still, if you'd rather avoid such discussion and go into future game announcements unspoiled, you might want to hold off on this one until a later date. But if you're still interested despite that, well, here we go. These past few months have been a dry spell in Nintendo news due to certain extenuating global circumstances. With little to go off aside from the recent Paper Mario and a short partner showcase in late July, the radio silence has made some fans stir-crazy, let's say. And to fill the void, the collective community has, among other things, started chasing rumors, both the plausible and the less so, in search of anything to be excited about in times as stressful as these. And among these rumors, one in particular has stood out. A report by multiple sources that one project yet to be announced is a collection of HD remasters of at least 3 of Mario's classic 3D platformers. It's an exciting prospect, getting to see and play these classic games with a shiny new coat of paint and potentially some updates and new features. But even with the increasingly plausible chance that these remasters are an actual thing, there's still a lot of directions a compilation like this could take. So, here are my thoughts. The top 5 things I hope are part of these 3D Mario remasters if or when they happen. Bear in mind, these are just my opinions, so if you don't agree with part of this list or think the whole thing is stupid and wrong, that's okay. These are just my personal preferences. While Super Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy have all aged pretty well from a gameplay standpoint, time hasn't been the kindest in other ways. In particular, the visuals, mostly on the former, haven't aged the greatest nowadays. And that's one of the main things I hope gets addressed. Sure, it's low-hanging fruit, but the idea of seeing all of these familiar locations in shiny modern HD graphics would really be something. Particularly for 64 and its blocky mid-1990s early 3D. Can you imagine what Bob-omb Battlefield or Cool Cool Mountain could look like nowadays? Think Galaxy 2's Throwback Galaxy, but cranked up to 11. But I'm not just hoping for higher res graphics because, well, that's a given for something like this. What I actually want is for Nintendo, or whoever develops it, to reimagine the game's aesthetics from the ground up to give each area their own visual identity. Seriously, imagine 64's worlds with as much creativity in their aesthetics as Odyssey's kingdoms. And we've seen Nintendo go all out with overhauling aesthetics and remade content before. Just look at what Mario Kart 8 was able to do with some of its retro tracks. Previously basic-looking ones like Dry Dry Desert or Tick Tock Clock, itself based on a level from Mario 64, got overhauled with new color schemes and unique details to help them truly feel like their own distinct locations. To say no less of what they did with the tracks from the 16-bit games. The very prospect of Mario Kart 8's design philosophy being applied to Mario 64 and used to touch up Sunshine and Galaxy to a lesser extent has me really interested. Like, can you imagine Lethal Lava Land overhauled to feel like it's truly set amidst a volcanic wasteland and not just some floating patch of lava? Or Wet Dry World finally looking like the ruins of a medieval city that sank beneath the waves? This could be more than just a chance to celebrate these classic Mario titles with a higher resolution. If handled right, this could allow the developers to depict these worlds not just as a shinier version of how they once were, but as how they were always meant to be. To be honest, this one's bound to happen just because it pretty much has to. Nintendo's had a habit of giving each console's main controller some kind of gimmick. From the GameCube controller's unusual button layout, to the Wii's famous motion-controlled remote, to the N64 using something seemingly designed for a 3-handed space alien. And with each strange new control scheme usually comes a mainline Mario title that takes full advantage of it. Odyssey was no exception, with advanced hat throws only capable by using the refined motion sensitivity of 2 detached Joy-Cons. But when one console and controller gets cycled out for the next, those key features that made each Mario game work can get left behind. Galaxy kind of needs an on-screen pointer to collect and shoot star bits. Flood's spray nozzle and Sunshine has multiple modes that took full advantage of the unusual precision the GameCube controller's shoulder buttons were capable of, allowing you to adjust the water's intensity based on how far you press down the R button. You could even choose between spraying while moving or staying in place and manually adjusting your aim. Basically, these control schemes can't transfer one-to-one into a potential Switch remaster. They'll need adjusting no matter what. But if handled well, this dilemma could actually become a strength. Adding multiple control schemes where it's viable to do so could make these games that much more accessible without affecting their level design. For example, imagine Galaxy having 2 control setups, one that lets you aim the star bit pointer with gyro controls, and one that lets you do it with the right stick instead. While the Switch itself does have the ability to remap buttons natively now, allowing it to be done in-game and adjusted for each save file individually for each game in the compilation would go that much further. Okay, I admit this one's more of a reach. Nintendo doesn't have much history doing this with first-party remakes and remasters. They're usually more into adding bonus content freshly designed for the re-release. But maybe that could change here? Maybe this could be a chance to revisit some content that was cut from the original versions of these games, whether because they ran out of time or were held back by technical limitations or any number of other reasons. And it's become a recurring thing recently with these types of remasters. I mean, there's a pretty good chance if this compilation is happening that it's because they've noticed other franchises are doing similar things to great success, and some of them have worked in previously cut content. The Crash Bandicoot trilogy brought back the level Stormy Ascent, which was cut from Crash 1 out of fear it was too difficult for the average player to beat. And the recent Battle for Bikini Bottom remake took scrapped ideas for additional characters and bosses and worked them into a new co-op horde mode. As the recent major asset leaks for old Nintendo games have shown, there's a lot of experimenting that goes on behind the scenes in game development, and a lot of content that gets trimmed out before the final product hits shelves. There's bound to be some notable stuff we don't even know of that didn't make the cut, and seeing some of it finally realized in these games, even as side content, would be a neat addition. Maybe it could even be a way for Nintendo's longer tenured staff members to finally revisit what they weren't able to make happen prior. As a creative kind of person myself, having to trim something out of a project because you couldn't pull it off in time always sucks. This could potentially be a win-win situation. The old veterans could finally get some closure, and we the players could get even more content to play through. Maybe it's also my creative side speaking, but I always get fascinated by a chance to take a deeper dive into a game's development history, to get a look under the hood and see the thought processes behind how each level layout or character or environment design came together over time. For me, it's more than just window dressing. It gives me a chance to learn and see how the pros do it. I can use it as a point of reference for my own creative works, so I have an idea of how to approach things I'd never have been able to figure out how to start. And that's why finally getting some kind of gallery of concept art or other such assets for some of Mario's classic titles would be such a cool feature. While Nintendo is no stranger to releasing concept art and backstories for their mainline titles, we've had a couple huge art/lore books for The Legend of Zelda already, we rarely see it included in the games themselves. The exceptions being recent Donkey Kong Country and Paper Mario titles, which made them rewards for accomplishing certain objectives. And maybe a 3D Mario compilation could do something similar, by including its own artwork or other assets, whether available from the get-go or as rewards for beating each game or even through some kind of overarching achievement system. Maybe they could even include other stuff, like screenshots of earlier builds or even captions that go into further detail explaining all the trials and tribulations that went into making these titles as iconic as they are today. Including some kind of gallery mode would be more than just a way to have all this stuff in one place. It'd be a chance to take a deeper dive into these games' history in ways we've never truly had the chance to with Mario before. And there is legitimate history here that's worth taking a look at. Real quick, a couple honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list. With these remasters could come a chance to make all kinds of little quality of life improvements. From slight touch-ups to the physics engines and precision of controls, to making the mantis surfing in Galaxy a little less unforgiving, to giving Mario 64 the modern-style wall jumps the DS version had, where holding toward the wall has Mario slide down it instead of bonking and losing all momentum if you don't time your jump perfectly, to touching up some of Sunshine's more frustrating elements, like the pachinko secret or the parts where you have to steer boats or lily pads with unintuitive momentum. This could be a chance to improve the little things. It'd also be cool if we saw some features that catered toward specifically the speedrunning community, whether making more cutscenes skippable, or a toggle to track in-game time more visibly, or even leaderboards for individual levels or stars or shines or etc. These are some of the most popular speed games of all time, so seeing some features that throw speedrunners a bone would be a nice touch. And finally, the one thing I hope above all else happens in these theoretical remastered 3D Mario titles. Okay, full disclosure, I've never actually 100% completed Super Mario Sunshine. Never got all 120 shine sprites. And this right here is the reason why. On paper, blue coins were a good idea, a theoretically optional secondary collectible that carries over between worlds that you can turn in as an alternate means of obtaining shines. It encourages exploring the game's large open areas even further and leads to more meaningful decisions during gameplay, which is always a good thing. Problem is, you actually do need every blue coin to get every shine in the game. Each world has a whopping 30 to find. Some require obtuse methods you'd hardly think to try out normally. Many only appear during specific missions in each world without any indication that's the case, even in sections you go through in multiple missions, and there is no way to keep track of which blue coins you've already obtained, which are still out there, and even which chapters they appear in unless you consult a guide and have some way of personally tracking which you've already picked up. This is, in my opinion, the biggest thing holding Sunshine back and the main reason I consider it the weakest 3D Mario title, which is still a high bar, but the point stands. But a potential HD remaster is the perfect place to take this blemish on what would otherwise be a great game and finally do something about it. A feature as simple as an in-game checklist for each world that tracks each blue coin you've obtained, where it was, and what you had to do to get it would work wonders. Have it show up each time you collect one, and allow players to view each list from the pause menu at any time, like 64 lets you view which power stars you've obtained, and now we're getting somewhere. Maybe they could even add something that helps you track down the coins you haven't found yet once you have most of them, whether by adding hints to the checklists, or even some kind of blue coin radar you can get from the Pianta that already offers you shades and a tacky tourist shirt once you've already made enough progress. Handle it right, and Sunshine's greatest flaw would finally be fixed. And that's the top 5 things I hope are included in these rumored 3D Mario remasters if they do truly come to pass. Honestly, I don't even expect all of this list to happen. I'd be satisfied with just a few of them. Game development is hard. There might be difficulties or red tape that prevents the developers from including stuff here, just like in the original versions. And we could also end up with other features I hadn't thought of. Regardless of how things pan out, one thing's for sure. At least this rumor has given us something truly interesting to talk about, and, potentially, something to look forward to in such a stressful time. And hey, if you liked hearing me ramble on about it, can you do me a favor and subscribe and turn on the little notification bell? I know it's cliche, but things are stressful for us content creators too, and doing that will help YouTube realize people really are still interested in watching. This type of video may be a first for me, but I doubt it'll be the last. Special thanks for this video goes to the people you see here, especially to my patrons for their continued support. It means a lot to me, so thanks. So, until next time, well, here's hoping there's something worth looking forward to on the horizon.